he always kept the truth in himself. No, we are not invading Ukraine. Trump went absolutely into that trap. The Russia is losing in the war. Did you know that Putin had a very special way of dealing with the world? I call it judo tactics that he learned while he learned to do the judo. And I will show you how it sees in all his way to the current situation and how lying is a part of that. Now, you cannot understand Putin unless you understand where he's from and how is his particular way to manage the world around him. Putin was grown in the Soviet Union, and as many other kids in those days, a pretty hard, if interesting youth. He was not the tall guy, he was a small guy. And he had to early on to develop the way that he can deal with these big guys. And that's why he started to learn how to do judo. Judo is an Asian practice, how you use the power of the adversary against him or herself. And this is always what you need to be doing if you are the one who is not the Goliath but the David, the smaller. In his times when he became a KGB agent back in the 1980s, he started to use that. The way he was using that then, he was supporting and financing some of the extreme groups that were then rampant in the West, such as infamous Rote Armee in Germany, the Red Army that kidnapped politicians and did other terrorist acts inside the society. When Putin later in the 90s rose to more influential positions, he started to use that strategy more extensively. And part of that was that he always kept the truth in himself, which means that even today when you look at his rhetorics, he very often lies. For instance, just before the Russian troops invaded Ukraine, he lied by saying, no, we don't have any intention to invade Ukraine, and yet they did. And of course, by that time he knew that he was lying. The point was that he doesn't see it as a lie at all. And he doesn't see that there is any problem with that, because he tries to put the attention somewhere else where he's putting his attention. Now in this case, for instance, by saying that no, we are not invading Ukraine, then everybody who is watching that says, oh yeah, well then I can breathe more, no wars coming and anything, so we can take it easier. And that of course gave him a benefit when he actually did what he was meant to do. This type of the tactics then also worked extremely well in US 2016 election. He wanted to have a president in the United States that is more favorable for him, meaning that he's more able to handle. And that's why when he looked at these two adversaries on the final round, Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump, he saw that Donald Trump was the guy that loved and people are appreciating him. He's very eagerly taking all the positive word that the others are saying and supporting his sort of a self-conscience. And of course, Putin saw immediately that, wow, this guy can be treated, handled very easily by giving some sort of indications and the promises that he's never going to need. And of course, Trump went absolutely into that trap. But to make that happen, Putin used his judo tactics also in the way that he was manipulating the mindset and the public opinions in the United States, using the social media, by leaking some information, and those kind of small gestures, actions that actually help to swing the public opinion more towards Donald Trump. These and many other examples just show that he is really a fox. He sees himself also being the kind of a master of communication. Why he thinks that way is that he often sees that just by finding the sweet spots, the sensitivities of the people, he can press that sweet spot and he gets what he wants. Together with this idea that, well, if you want to achieve something, better do that very fast. As he did in Chechnya, as he did in Georgia, as he did in invading Crimea. All those events where he actually didn't give a time to the other to actually come to the terms what's going on. And it's part of the judo tactics as well. Because when you don't give the other one the time to realize what's going on, you don't need that much force. But of course, when we look at the current situation in Ukraine, the situation has changed dramatically. Now, Putin is the big guy, big and clumsy guy. He's leading, in fact, enormous army. He's not the David, he's the Goliath. He's the big guy. And Ukraine is the David. He is not in his territory. He is in an unknown territory, and that's why he's not making right decisions and he gets frustrated and things really don't work well for him. He has come to the situation where whatever he tries to do is not actually helping him a lot. And that's why even this manipulation that he's currently doing, and he's been doing that of course for a long time with all the forces and mighties he have at his hand, namely that he looks the way that the misinformation is spread among the Russian public. All those lies about the victories, all those lies about the Ukraine being Nazis, all those lies about the West being aggressive attacker, all those lies that he and his machinery is spreading. It's a part of his way of doing things, and also that is been working very well because the Russian folks have been very tame. As far as we can see, there is almost nothing happening on the citizen front there. People are basically maybe fearing, then if it comes too close, they are rushing away from the country. As is close to 1 million people that fled from the country because they didn't want to have a chance to be a part of this mobilization, finding themselves suddenly in the front line. He has extended his strategy, but now also it looks inside the Russia that he's losing ground because the time is not on his side. The time is another side. Time is his adversary, even if someone is saying the other way, this is not true. Because the images, the mirages that he's been building to people to say, look this, and be proud of the Russia, they are fading away, slowly but surely, because even if you do everything to prevent people from getting the right type of the information, they will finally get that, because this is what is our world. And because in reality, the Russia is losing in the war. And that is something that of course is very hard to accept for the person like Putin. He doesn't accept defeats. He doesn't seem himself to be the one that is fallible. He truly believes that he's infallible. And of course, there is a lot of history to sort of to prove him that he is a master of different maneuvers that mostly have been rather successful. So he has brought himself back on the global stage, and not just himself, but the Russia, which is of course his ultimate goal, to bring back the Russia as a major empire, as a major actor in the geopolitics. As we can see, the tactics that works in one environment does not necessarily work in the other, and this is now the end of it for him. And probably he starts to see it in the very same way as many other dictators, from Saddam Hussein to Hitler, always come to the point when they realize, all too late of course for them, that they are on the losing ground. But because publicly he cannot take the steps back, he cannot accept the reality, he's probably never gonna do that. Someone else needs to be there to be saying, hey, come on, the Tsars have no clothes. There is no substance behind. And what's more, when it comes to Russia, the incredible amount of the loss and the burden this whole thing is placing on the next generations is almost beyond any of our imagination to grasp, because the load is going to be heavy, much heavier than we probably can think of now, because so much damage has been done. But for Putin, this is very personal battle right now, not the battle of Russia, his personal battle. So he actually is, as we speak, probably distanciating himself from what is going in the battlegrounds, and thinking desperately how can he get somehow out of this plot that he has devised himself. Maybe not just himself, also the some of the closest of his people that were actually recommending him to go and invade the Ukraine. So this is what I see, how Putin has come to where it is now. And by the way, we in the West have been a part of that. We have not been able to read his mind. We have not been able to touch his concern early on, when there was still a real possibility to change the course of the Russia, to change the course of the mindset of Putin. We didn't do our job very well in there, and that is the part of the problem. We should have engaged him back in 2003, 4, 5, 6, much more into redesigning the security system of the post-Cold War, post-Soviet Union era. We didn't invite him on these tables. But we also didn't do the other alternative, which was that 2008, George W. Bush actually suggested Ukraine to become a NATO member. And while there were a lot of others who actually appreciated that idea, Germany and France did not. And I believe why they did not appreciate that was out of their own narrow economic interest. And guess what? If you continue that scenario, of course the war that we are seeing, that then this absolute destruction would have never happened, because Russia would have never invaded a NATO country. I don't believe that's possible. But that is now the type of the regret that we need to be having. But in either case, either taking Putin more seriously and showing him respect, or play much harder game with him, is now something that, of course, we can only look at the hindsight that these were the other possibilities that the West didn't take. We need to study this, and we need to study this in a way that how actually we can prevent these type of events happening in the future? How can we be prepared for this type of situation? Play tougher if necessary, but also be more cooperative if necessary. And that is what the West has to be learning out of this devastating conflict. Subscribe to my channel and see other related videos. And in the comments, give your remarks why Putin always lies. And see you.